Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to another lecture for Computer Science 9618 for AS level, and today we are going to start the last section for our AS syllabus, that is chapter number 12 or section number 12, software development. And today we are going to start our discussion on 12.1, that is the program development lifecycle or PDLC. Commonly outside Cambridge, PDLC is also known as SDLC, that can stand for software development lifecycle or system development lifecycle, and it is a systematic way of developing quality software. It provides an organization the plan for breaking down the task of program development into manageable chunks, each of which must be successfully completed before moving on to the next phase. This is a diagram or a diagrammatic representation of how the software development lifecycle or the program development lifecycle looks like. First stage we have is planning, then design, or rather analysis, as known as in Cambridge. Then we have design, then we have the coding or development, then we have testing, then we have deployment and maintenance. So the first stage we have is analysis, and in this stage what we do, we gather the client's requirements or the customer's requirement. We also apply abstraction and decomposition. In this stage, abstraction means to keep the key elements intact and discard any unnecessary information, whereas decomposition means to break a large or complex problem into sub-problems or sub-parts and then further divide those sub-problems into more simpler parts so that they can be solved easily. Next, we have something that is stage 2, design. Conceptual design of each module of the program is to be made and drafted using algorithms. That means you make both flowcharts and pseudocode, as well as you create structure diagrams and UML diagrams, the unified modeling language diagrams. Then stage 3 is coding, translating algorithms into actual programming code, and in this stage we use something that is known as iterative testing, which is to make sure blocks of code written are error free. Iterative testing basically means that after writing every 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 lines of code, you run an interpreter to syntax check that. Then we have stage 4, that is testing. Over here we use test data, check our program, the functionality of it, and we fix any logical errors or bugs in the written code. Stage 5 and 6 are not a direct part of Cambridge guideline or Cambridge syllabus. I am just putting them there for the completeness of the topic. Stage 5 is implementation or deployment. Basically it means to install the system or the software or the program at user end, whereas stage 6 is maintenance. It means to provide after sales upgrade and debugging. This involves dealing with any problems that arise during use, including debugging any bugs, improving the functionality of the program, or adapting the program to meet new requirements. Now this much till over here, the 6 stages of program development lifecycle, you have already studied in your O-levels P2 as well, section 7.1. Now what's new in A-levels is that now we have types of PDLC as well. There are different models for developing a program or for running a PDLC which have been adopted over the years in order to best suit the needs of the developer. All types of development cycle has the same analysis, design, coding, testing and maintenance stages, but the order in which they are dealt with is slightly different. The first model we have is known as the waterfall model. The waterfall model is a linear sequential flow in which the progress is seen as flowing steadily downwards, just like a waterfall, through the phases of software implementation. This means that any phase in the development process begins only if the previous stage or the previous phase has been successfully completed. Otherwise, you cannot jump on to the next stage. The waterfall approach does not define the process to go back to the previous phase to handle changes in requirement. That means if you are working through waterfall model and midway through the development the client asks for some changes to be made, it cannot be done. The waterfall approach is the earliest approach and most widely known that was used for software development. This is how the waterfall model looks like. First of all, you complete the requirement stage, then you move to design stage. Once you have completely done it, then you move to execution stage or the coding stage. Remember one thing, for program development lifecycle, Cambridge has picked up terminology technologies that are technically very different than the rest of the world. Normally in other parts of the syllabus, for writing pseudocodes, for flowcharts, this and that, Cambridge is 95 to 99% similar to any other computer science curriculum or board, either at university level or in Edexcel, etc. However, when it comes to software development lifecycle or program development lifecycle, Cambridge is using terminologies which are rather not used by other systems or other boards. So that's why you might see a little difference in different images. So don't worry about it. Just remember, for us, first stage is analysis, then design, then coding, then testing, and then deployment. Although the deployment and maintenance stage, the Cambridge examiner doesn't really ask you questions about it, because according to the Cambridge examiner, the first 4 stages are enough for you to know. Anyways, uses for projects which do not focus on changing the requirement. If the examiner has given you a scenario where the requirement of the customer would remain same throughout the development, then you can easily go for the waterfall models. Or for projects initiated from a request for proposals, that is RFPs, the customer has very clear documented requirements, then the customer would not ask you to change them again and again, hence a waterfall model can be utilized. Now, if you are confused about what the hell is projects initiated from a request for proposal, basically RFP, or a request for proposal, is when a company or an organization or even the government places a public ad that we want this to be done. For example, we want a new bridge to be constructed from this starting point to that starting point, having this much length, this much width, this much height, etc., etc. Over there, or something like a company needing bids for a new software project for their head office, etc. For such projects, the company has already given you the requirements. They do not need to be changed mid of the development. So during such situations, we can easily apply a waterfall model. Advantages of waterfall model: it is easy to explain to the users, because obviously when a software cannot be developed overnight. It takes about 3 to 6 months, or sometimes even a year. So you repeatedly have to give presentations to your client. So if you are following a waterfall model, it is easier to explain it through presentations to your board of directors, your manager, and ultimately your client. Stages and activities are well defined. You don't really need to, show your creativity. It helps to plan and schedule the project very easily. Verification at each stage ensures early detection of errors or any misunderstanding. Each phase has specific deliverables. Deliverables means there are certain outcomes, there are certain results. Once they are achieved, it means that okay, we have successfully completed this stage. Disadvantages: it assumes that the requirement of a system can be frozen, or it would remain frozen for the entire duration for the development of the project. For example, I know this is not related to computer science, but if a government has announced a tender for a bridge that is, let's say, 15 kilometers long and apparently would be constructed in about 1.5 years, so for following waterfall model, you have to assume that whatever was the need or the requirement of the length and the width and the height of the bridge right now would remain the same even after 1.5 years or 2 years or 1 year. In terms of computer science, this usually is not always the ideal approach, because we always keep getting new and new technologies in the market. So you might be having something like 20 Core i5 systems in your office right now, but 6 months, 9 months, a year later, when your new system would be finished, it might be possible by the time your IT department has decided to upgrade all the computers to Core i9 of the latest generation, let's say 12th generation, and the system you developed was actually tailored for Core i5, let's say 8th generation, there might be a problem. So this is the biggest disadvantage of waterfall model. There are no options for changing requirements in the midst of the development. Very difficult to go back to any stage after it is finished. You just cannot go back. it's not really in the model. A little flexibility and adjusting the scope are difficult and expensive, like I have explained you above, costly and required more time in addition to the detailed plan. The next model we have is known as iterative model. It is developed to overcome the weaknesses of the waterfall model. It starts with the initial planning and ends with development with the cyclic interactions in between. The basic idea behind this model is to develop a system through repeated cycles or iterations and in smaller portions at a time. It should be incremental in nature so that software developers can take advantage of what was learned during the development of that small portion in order to what you can say improve the next development stage, or rather the next stage in your plan. It can consist of mini waterfalls as well. Basically, an iterative waterfall is, let's suppose you are creating a big program for a company. Let's suppose something similar to MS Excel. The company has ordered you as a employee or rather as a client. They have explained their requirements and they want something like MS Excel to be developed for their company. Now if you see MS Excel, MS Word, all of these programs have multiple tabs. If you are following the iterative model, so you will break your program in, or you would rather decompose your programs into many modules. For example, first of all, you'll not start with the entire program at once. You'll first create the first module, let's suppose the home tab, and then by following a mini waterfall, and then whatever you have learned from creating that first tab, then you'll go on to create the next tab, then the third, then the fourth, and then fifth and sixth, and finally overall you'll join all those modules together and finish the final product. It is used in shrink wrap applications and large systems which built in small phases or segments. A shrink wrap application is basically a software which is technically a bundle that provides you multiple functionalities, such as an MS Office actually comprises of multiple softwares such as MS Office, MS PowerPoint, MS Excel, MS Access, MS OneNote, etc., all under the same package. So such softwares are known as shrink wrap applications or shrink wrap softwares, which contains of multiple small utilities, or which are basically a bundle of multiple functionalities, such as an anti-malware bundle that consists of a antivirus software as well as a anti-key logging software as well as an anti-malware software, and so on. So these systems can be built in small phases or segments one after the other. So in such places iterative model is best. Also can be used in a system that has separated components, for example an ERP system, enterprise resource planning system. They are very big systems that basically computerized a whole factory or a whole company. Advantages: there is a working model for the system at a very early stage of development, which makes it easier to find functional or design flows, because for every module you are running a waterfall model. Technically you're developing one module, then the other, and then the other. So you basically at the end of every mini waterfall or every stage of an iterative model, you actually get something presentable or some actual work done. So you can very easily locate functional or design flaws. Finding issues at an early stage means corrective measures can be taken more quickly. Some working functionality can be developed quickly and early in the life cycle. Results are obtained early and periodically. Parallel development can be planned, like you assign multiple modules to multiple developers, so the work is done easily. Progress can also be measured easily, less costly to change the scope or requirements. Testing or debugging of a smaller subset of program is easier than trying to test run the whole program. Risks are identified and resolved during iteration. Easier to manage risks. Higher risk part is done first. With every increment, operational product is delivered. Issues, challenges, and risks identified from each increment can be utilized to the next increment or the next step or the next iteration. Better suited for large and mission critical projects where you cannot afford to have any any type of failure. During the life cycle, software is produced early, which facilitates customer evaluation and feedback. Disadvantages: require heavy documentation because you're running so much iterations. You're going to need a hell lot of space in your filing cabinet for keeping all the documentation. Follows a defined set of processes. Integration between iterations can be an issue if not considered during the development and project planning, because every module is developed independently, so sometimes there can be compatibility issues between them. Only large software development projects can benefit because it is hard to break a very small software into further smaller serviceable modules. For example, if you have to create a text typing software as simple as Notepad, now you would not be able to break it into further modules so that you can apply the iterative model over there. More resources may be required because you are running iterations of the waterfall model again and again and again and again and again. Design issues might arise because not all requirements are gathered at the beginning of the entire life cycle. Some of them are gathered or they arise in the middle as well. The third model we have is known as RAD, the Rapid Application Development. RAD is an adaptive software development model based on prototyping and quick feedback rather than planning. A prototype is a working model of part of the solution. With RAD, developers can quickly make multiple iterations and updates to the software without starting from scratch. In the RAD model, the modules are developed in a parallel as prototypes and are integrated to make the complete product for faster product delivery. Any changes are made during the development process, not after completing it. This helps ensure that the final output or outcome is more quality focused and aligns with the end user's requirements. So this is basically RAD, or Rapid Application Development, where you assign multiple teams to work simultaneously on parts of the program, and then you can simply combine it all together in the end and hand it over to the client in less time. Advantages: changing requirements can be accommodated, progress can be measured, productivity increases with fewer people in a short time, reduces development time, increases reusability of components, quick initial reviews occur, encourages customer feedback. Integration from very beginning solves a lot of integration issues which usually arrive in the iterative model. Disadvantages: only system that can be modularized or that can be decomposed can be built using RAD, otherwise you cannot apply RAD. Requires highly skilled developers or designers, otherwise there is going to be hell lot of issues or trouble among the developing teams, simultaneously developing teams in your software house. They are suitable for systems that are component based and scalable, but not suitable, but this RAD model cannot be applied to any other type of systems. Requires user involvement throughout the life cycle. Without customer feedback, you just cannot apply the RAD model. You are going to need constant feedback from the user. Suitable for projects requiring shorter development times. That is the main benefit and that is the main idea. It is only suitable for projects requiring or shortest possible development time. Okay, so that's everything you need to know about 12.1. I hope you have understood everything. If not, if you have any questions, queries, confusions, you can write them in the comments below. I'll definitely get back to you. Secondly, if you need these notes in hard copy, or if you can get the AS level study pack, or if you or anyone else needs the study pack for computer science, IGCSE or O levels, or you need good study notes for physics, O levels or IGCSE, then you can use the form link given in the description below to place your order. Lastly, if you're new here, you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so and share it with your friends as well. I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Till then, stay tuned, take care, Allah Hafiz.